Have you ever felt that slow, creeping weakness in your legs, or noticed how you seem to wake up more often at night? Maybe you chalk it up to just getting old, something everyone has to accept. But what if it's not just age? What if some of the health checkups you've been told to get might cause more harm than good after 70? It's a surprising truth many seniors don't hear, and it's easy to overlook because these tests feel like the safe, responsible thing to do. Yet, some routine screenings can lead to unnecessary stress, risky procedures, or even mistakes that impact your well-being. In this video, we'll explore 5 health checkups you should reconsider, and why doing less might sometimes be the key to living stronger, longer. So stay with me, because what you learn today could change how you protect your health tomorrow. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and activate the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. If you're over 65, you probably know the routine by heart. Once or twice a year, your phone buzzes with a reminder from your doctor's office, or your grown children nudge you gently, "Mom, Dad, don't forget to book your annual checkups." The mail brings flyers for free screenings at the local community center. Cholesterol, blood pressure, bone density, prostate cancer, and more. On TV, smiling doctors in crisp white coats urge you to take charge of your health with every test and scan available. It can feel like a never-ending to-do list. One more blood draw, one more scan, one more, just to be safe, check. Maybe you've even found yourself sitting in a waiting room, magazine in hand, thinking, I guess this is just what you do when you're older. It feels normal, even responsible. After all, isn't it better to be safe than sorry? But let me ask you, what if more isn't always better? What if, past a certain age, doing every single test starts to cause problems, not just prevent them? It's a question that challenges everything we've been told, especially for those who grew up in a time when early detection was the gold standard and new technology promised to save lives. Let's pull back the curtain and look a little closer at this modern ritual of constant checkups. When you were younger, these screenings were designed to catch problems early, when they're easier to treat. That's still true in many cases. But after 70, something changes, inside your body, and in the math of risk and benefit. Our organs, our immune systems, even the way our bodies respond to treatment, all begin to shift. Suddenly, the value of some tests drops, while the risks, from unnecessary worry to invasive follow-up procedures, can quietly rise. For example, imagine you're getting a scan for something you feel perfectly fine about. If the scan shows a shadow or a mild abnormality, your doctor may order more tests, maybe a biopsy, maybe surgery. These follow-ups are not always gentle, and sometimes they find nothing at all, just normal changes that come with age. But the stress, discomfort, or even complications from these extra procedures can take a real toll on your quality of life. There's a term for this in medicine: overdiagnosis. It means finding problems that would never have caused you harm, but now you've been thrust into a medical maze you never needed. Of course, none of this is to say that regular checkups or vigilance are bad. Many routine tests are truly life-saving, especially for people at high risk or those with specific symptoms. But when screening is done out of habit, out of fear, or because that's just what seniors do, it's worth pausing to ask, who benefits? This isn't just theory. Scientific research in the last decade has begun to reshape our understanding of health checkups in older adults. For example, studies have shown that the risks of certain cancer screenings, like colonoscopies or mammograms, can start to outweigh the benefits after a certain age, especially for people with other chronic health conditions. The reason is simple. Many cancers found at this age grow very slowly. You might live happily for years without ever being bothered by them, but the treatments themselves can be harsh, even dangerous. False positives, when a test says there's a problem, but there isn't, are also much more common as we age. That means more anxiety, more doctor visits, and sometimes more harm than help. So, what's the gentle, everyday solution? The answer is simpler and kinder than you might think. Personalized, thoughtful care. Instead of blindly following a checklist, talk openly with your healthcare provider about which tests truly fit your health story. Ask, is this screening still necessary for me? What are the real risks and benefits at my age and with my health history? Good doctors will welcome these questions and help you weigh your options with honesty and compassion. Consider this. Imagine a woman named Betty. She's 76, widowed, with 2 grown kids and a garden she loves. For years, Betty went for every test her doctor recommended, including annual mammograms. But at her last checkup, her new physician sat down with her and had a real conversation. They talked about Betty's overall health, her personal and family history, and her wishes for the future. Together, they decided that some tests could safely be skipped, freeing Betty from unnecessary stress and allowing her to focus more on the things that truly mattered, like playing with her grandkids or volunteering at the library. Betty still gets care, but it's tailored to her, not just her birth date. This approach, care that's just right instead of just more, isn't about cutting corners or neglecting real issues. It's about respecting the wisdom that comes with age and trusting your sense of what feels right for your body and your life. It's also about shifting from fear-based medicine, what if I miss something, to hope-based living, how can I stay healthy, happy, and independent for as long as possible? So if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the reminders, recommendations, and advertisements for endless screenings, you're not alone. Millions of older Americans are quietly wrestling with the same questions, wondering if they're doing too much or not enough. The truth is, good health is not a competition to see who can get the most tests. It's about making informed, thoughtful choices and knowing that sometimes, less truly is more. Remember, the ultimate goal of any health checkup is not just to add years to your life, but to add life to your years. That means making space for joy, peace of mind, and confidence in your decisions. Trust yourself. Ask questions. And surround yourself with a care team that sees you as a whole person, not just a chart or a checklist. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. You have the right to choose which tests are right for you, and you don't need to apologize for putting your quality of life first. At the end of the day, the smartest kind of care is the one that honors your experience, values your independence, and helps you live well on your terms. And remember, you're never walking this journey alone. Every step you take towards smarter, more personalized healthcare helps pave the way for others. Your friends, your family, your community. Together, we can build a future where seniors feel empowered, respected, and truly cared for. So next time you find yourself staring at a list of checkups, take a deep breath and ask, is this test for me, or just for the sake of doing more? Your well-being is worth that honest conversation. Main content: 5 health checkups to avoid or approach with caution after age 70. 1. Colonoscopy, colorectal cancer screening. If you're like many older Americans, you've probably been told for years that a colonoscopy is a rite of passage, a critical tool in the fight against colon cancer. Maybe you remember your first one. The long day of fasting, the uncomfortable prep, the nerves, and finally, that foggy post-procedure moment in the recovery room. Afterward, you likely felt a mix of relief and pride. I did it. I took care of myself. And for many adults in their 50s and 60s, that's true. Colonoscopies have saved lives by catching early polyps before they turn dangerous. The stories are everywhere. A friend's life saved by screening, or a celebrity sharing how an early test changed their fate. But here's something rarely discussed in those success stories. As we age past 70, the math and the risk of colonoscopy changes. It's common to think, if this test was good for me at 55, why wouldn't it be even more important at 75? But science, and lived experience, suggest the answer isn't so simple. What if, after a certain age, the risks start to outweigh the benefits? let's gently challenge the assumption that more screening is always better. Colorectal cancer is, indeed, a serious threat to older adults. But as our bodies age, so does the colon itself. The tissue becomes more fragile, healing is slower, and reactions to sedation can become more unpredictable. Research shows that while colonoscopy remains a powerful tool for people at average risk in their 50s and early 60s, the situation is different after 70, especially if you've had clear colonoscopies in the past. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Here's why. Colonoscopy is not a harmless test. The procedure involves inserting a flexible tube with a camera into your colon, looking for polyps or signs of cancer. For someone younger, the risks, like bleeding, infection, or perforation, a tear in the colon wall, are very low. But past 70, and especially 75, those risks rise significantly. The colon wall thins with age, and the chances of complications, although still rare, become much more real. What's more, recovery from these complications is harder and slower, often requiring hospitalization or even surgery. There's also the question of life expectancy and competing health concerns. Medical experts, including the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, now recommend that routine colonoscopies aren't necessary for everyone over 75, or for anyone with other serious health conditions that limit life expectancy. Why? Because colon cancer tends to develop slowly, sometimes over a decade or longer. If you're in your late 70s or 80s and feeling well, you're more likely to face issues from the test itself than from a new cancer that takes years to become a threat. Of course, every person's story is unique. That's why the best approach is personalized. If you have a strong family history of colon cancer, or if you've had suspicious polyps removed in the past, your doctor may still recommend surveillance. But if you're in generally good health, with no new symptoms, and your last colonoscopy was clear, the risks of repeating the test may now outweigh the benefits. So, what can you do instead? The most important step is to have an open, honest conversation with your healthcare provider. Don't be afraid to ask direct questions. Do I need another colonoscopy at my age? What are the risks for someone like me? Are there safer options? For many seniors, simple, non-invasive screening tests, like a yearly stool test, FIT or Cologuard, can provide reassurance without the risks of sedation and invasive procedures. These home-based tests can catch early warning signs, and your doctor can help you decide if further action is truly needed. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. Harold, a retired firefighter from Ohio, always prided himself on staying healthy. At 72, he received a letter from his doctor's office reminding him that his last colonoscopy was a decade ago. His first instinct was to schedule the test, but his daughter, a nurse, encouraged him to slow down and talk it through. They met with Harold's physician, who explained that because Harold had no family history, no symptoms, and a clean record on his last screening, he could safely skip the procedure. Instead, they agreed on a simple at-home stool test. Harold was relieved. No fasting, no hospital visit, no anxiety. He could spend his time fishing and visiting friends, not preparing for another round in the hospital. It's easy to get swept up in the fear of missing something. As we age, we're often reminded of what can go wrong, not what's already going right. But real wisdom, the kind you've earned over decades of living, is about knowing when to press forward and when to rest. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is say, "No, thank you. I trust my body and my care team. I choose quality of life." So, if you're facing pressure from family, from reminders in the mail, or even from your sense of responsibility to book another colonoscopy, pause for a moment. Ask yourself what's right for you, not just what's expected. Remember that every test carries a trade-off, and at this stage of life, your comfort, safety, and happiness matter more than ever. You've come this far with strength, resilience, and wisdom. Let that wisdom guide you now. Talk with your doctor, ask the tough questions, and trust yourself to make the best choice for your journey. Because real health isn't just about finding problems. It's about living every day as fully and as freely as you can. And if you ever wonder whether you're doing enough, know this. Caring for yourself means making decisions that honor not just your years, but your dreams, your comfort, and your right to enjoy this beautiful stage of life. 2. PSA blood test for prostate cancer screening. If you're a man over 65, chances are you've had this moment. Sitting in your doctor's office, rolling up your sleeve for another blood draw, and hearing the words PSA test as part of your regular checkup. Maybe you remember the first time a friend or neighbor told you about his high PSA number and the anxiety that followed. Or maybe you've heard the stories, some with happy endings, others shadowed by months of worry, confusion, and even regret. The PSA, or prostate-specific antigen, test has become almost a ritual for older men in America. For decades, it was seen as a badge of good health, responsible, proactive, a way to catch prostate cancer before it's too late. But what if this test, so widely recommended for years, isn't always the clear lifesaver it's made out to be? What if, especially after 70, this simple blood test sometimes leads to more harm than help? It's a surprising question, and it challenges the idea that early detection is always the best medicine. The truth is, the story of the PSA test is more complicated than it first appears, especially for men in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Here's what most men don't hear. The PSA test isn't a cancer test at all. PSA is a protein made by both healthy and diseased prostate cells, and its levels can rise for lots of reasons. Enlarged prostate, infection, recent procedures, even riding a bike. A high PSA doesn't mean you have cancer, and a low PSA doesn't guarantee you're safe. Yet, each year, thousands of older men with a high PSA number are sent down a path of repeated tests, biopsies, and sometimes even treatment for a cancer that might never have threatened their lives. Here's the science in simple terms. Prostate cancer is very common in older men, but most types grow slowly, so slowly that, for many, they'll never cause symptoms or shorten life. Studies show that up to 80% of men over 80 may have some cancer cells in their prostate, but only a small fraction will ever suffer from them. What's more, the treatments for prostate cancer, surgery, radiation, and hormone therapy, can be tough on the body, leading to side effects like incontinence, impotence, and even complications from anesthesia or infection. And for men in their later years, the chance that treatment will help them live longer is often small compared to the risks and burdens of those treatments. So why does the PSA test still cause so much worry? Part of the answer is history. For years, doctors believed that catching cancer early was always better, and the PSA seemed like a perfect screening tool. But as time went on, more and more men were treated for tiny, harmless tumors. Treatments that left them with lifelong side effects for a disease that might never have touched them. It's called overdiagnosis, finding a problem that doesn't need fixing. What should you do if your doctor suggests a PSA test after age 70? First, pause. Take a breath. Remember that you have choices, and that your voice matters. Experts, including the American Urological Association and the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, now recommend against routine PSA screening for men over 70, and even younger for those with other health problems or a limited life expectancy. The risks of worry, unnecessary biopsies, and difficult treatments are simply too high. Here's a gentle, practical approach. If you feel well, have no symptoms like trouble urinating or pain, and have no strong family history of prostate cancer, you can safely skip the PSA test. If you and your doctor still want to keep an eye on things, have an honest conversation about what you do if the PSA is high. Would you want more tests, biopsies, or treatments at this stage of life? Sometimes, watchful waiting or active surveillance is the best path, focusing on your comfort and peace of mind rather than chasing numbers. Let's put a human face on this. Take Frank, a retired postman from Wisconsin. Frank always took pride in getting his checkups on time, and for years, his doctor ordered a PSA test every visit. At 74, His PSA crept up slightly, not much, but enough to spark concern. Over the next 6 months, Frank went through 2 biopsies, each one more uncomfortable and nerve-wracking than the last. No cancer was found, but the anxiety took a toll on Frank and his wife, disrupting sleep and bringing a cloud of fear to what should have been a peaceful chapter of life. At his next appointment, Frank and his doctor sat down and talked honestly. Did he need to keep testing? They decided together to stop the routine PSA checks and focus on the things that mattered most to Frank: time with his grandchildren, fishing trips with friends, and quiet evenings at home. The relief was almost immediate. Frank's health didn't suffer. In fact, he felt freer and lighter, no longer trapped in the endless cycle of what if. If you're facing the same questions, know this: there is no single right answer for everyone. But you do have the right to ask questions, to weigh the pros and cons, and to choose the path that fits your goals and your values. Don't be afraid to talk openly with your doctor, or to bring a loved one to help you advocate for what's best for you. Your peace of mind and well-being are just as important as any number on a lab report. Remember, real health is not just about avoiding disease, but about living with confidence, dignity, and joy, especially as you grow older. You've earned the right to make these decisions on your terms. So the next time someone suggests a PSA test, ask, will this help me live better, or just make me worry more? Trust yourself. Listen to your heart, your experience, and your dreams for this season of life. You are more than your test results. Your life is measured in memories, laughter, and love, not in numbers on a page. And sometimes, the wisest choice is to do less, so you can live more. 3. Routine chest X-rays or CT scans without symptoms. Imagine this. You walk into your doctor's office for your annual checkup, feeling pretty good. Maybe your back aches a bit when you wake up, but otherwise, life is steady. Your doctor listens to your heart and lungs, nods, and then, almost as routine as taking your blood pressure, suggests, let's order a chest X-ray, just to be safe. Or maybe a friend mentions she gets a CT scan every year to make sure nothing is brewing. You want peace of mind, so you say yes. After all, more information can't hurt, right? But what if this just to be safe attitude sometimes does more harm than good? What if, when it comes to chest X-rays and CT scans in healthy people with no symptoms, more is not always better? In fact, what if unnecessary scans can lead to more stress, more invasive procedures, and even health risks you never expected? Let's unravel this together. For decades, technology has made it easier to peer inside the human body, and that's brought real miracles. Catching pneumonia, finding cancers early, even saving lives after accidents. For folks with a cough that won't go away, chest pain, or risk factors like a long history of heavy smoking, these scans can be powerful tools. But for people who feel well, and especially for older adults who've never smoked or had lung problems, routine chest scans without symptoms don't offer the benefits you might think. Instead, the risk of a false alarm, the scan showing a tiny spot or nodule that's probably harmless, increases with age. Here's the simple science. As we get older, our lungs collect little scars and marks from life. Minor infections, pollution, allergies, even just living a long, active life. A chest X-ray or CT scan picks up every little detail. But not every abnormality is something dangerous. Studies show that the overwhelming majority of spots found on chest scans in older adults are benign. Still, once a doctor finds something, even something harmless, it often sets off a domino effect. Follow-up scans, maybe a biopsy, sometimes even surgery. Each step brings more anxiety, more waiting, and sometimes real harm, especially when invasive tests come with their risks. Bleeding, infection, or a hospital stay. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. There's also radiation to consider. A single chest X-ray exposes you to a tiny amount of radiation, nothing to lose sleep over. But a CT scan is a different story. It delivers much more radiation, and repeated scans over the years can slowly add up. While one scan isn't dangerous, unnecessary exposure is just that, unnecessary. Why take the risk if there's no good reason? Let's step back and ask the question few people do. Why order these tests in the first place? Often, it's a habit, a pattern that started long ago, when doctors hoped routine screening could catch things early. Sometimes it's fear, for both doctor and patient, of missing something serious. Other times, it's driven by advertising or stories in the news, creating the idea that only constant scanning keeps you safe. But here's the reality. National guidelines, including those from the American College of Physicians and the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, advise against routine chest X-rays or CT scans in healthy adults with no symptoms. There's no evidence that these scans improve life expectancy or prevent serious disease in people who aren't at high risk. For seniors, especially those who never smoked, the likelihood of finding something truly dangerous is very low, but the chance of a false positive, and all the stress that comes with it, is much higher. So what's a wiser path? Instead of accepting every scan as just part of getting older, try this gentle, practical approach. When your doctor suggests a chest X-ray or CT scan and you feel fine, pause and ask, is this necessary for me, or just a habit? Be honest about your health history. If you've never smoked and have no symptoms like cough, weight loss, or chest pain, you may not need the test at all. And if you're worried about something, share those concerns. Maybe there's another, simpler way to find answers. If your doctor insists, ask about the possible risks and benefits, and don't be afraid to get a second opinion. A good physician will respect your desire to avoid unnecessary tests and focus on what truly keeps you healthy. Let me tell you about Gloria, a lively 78-year-old who spent her retirement traveling and gardening. Last spring, she went for her annual checkup, feeling better than ever. Her new doctor suggested a chest CT, just to be sure, even though Gloria had never smoked and had no symptoms. The scan showed a small nodule, likely harmless, but her doctor wanted to play it safe. This meant another scan 3 months later, and while she waited, Gloria could hardly sleep, imagining the worst. The second scan showed no change, and in the end, her doctor agreed it was just a harmless scar from an old cold. But those months of worry, and the cost and stress of repeat testing, lingered long after. Gloria's story is not unique. All across America, seniors are feeling pressured to do just one more test, often without being told the real odds. The good news is you have more power than you realize. You can shape your care, ask questions, and say no to tests that don't make sense for you. Remember, the real goal of healthcare isn't just to collect data. It's to help you feel well, stay active, and enjoy your life. You've earned the right to a care plan that respects your body, your peace of mind, and your independence. So the next time you're offered a routine scan with no symptoms, trust yourself to speak up. Your health isn't defined by what a machine sees. It's about how you feel, what you can do, and the memories you still want to create. Sometimes, living well means saying no, thank you, to tests you don't need, and yes to all the joy and freedom that healthy aging can bring. Your wisdom is your greatest guide. Listen to it, trust it, and remember, your voice matters most in every decision about your care. 4. Frequent bone density tests, DEXA scans. Picture this. It's another routine doctor's visit. You've just had your weight checked, your blood pressure measured, and your list of prescriptions reviewed. As you're getting ready to leave, the nurse reminds you, it's time for your annual bone density scan. Let's see how those bones are holding up. Maybe you nod and agree, thinking it's just what people your age are supposed to do. After all, no one wants to be caught off guard by weak bones or the risk of a fracture. But have you ever stopped to ask, do I need another bone scan this year? Is it possible that, after a certain point, frequent bone density testing might not be helping at all, and could even lead to unnecessary anxiety or treatment? It's a question worth considering, especially as we learn more about aging and bone health. For many Americans over 65, bone density testing, often called a DEXA scan, has become a standard part of annual health maintenance. The logic is simple. Catch osteoporosis early, prevent fractures, and stay independent for as long as possible. And in many cases, especially for women around menopause or those at high risk, this first scan can be extremely valuable. But after 70, the story changes. Here's why. Bone loss is a natural part of aging. Most adults lose some bone mass as they get older, but it doesn't always mean disaster. DEXA scans use low-dose X-rays to measure bone density in the hip and spine, helping doctors decide who might benefit from medication or lifestyle changes. For people who've never been tested, or who have risk factors, like previous fractures, family history, or long-term steroid use, a DEXA scan makes sense. But repeating the test every year or even every 2 years, especially when you're already on treatment or your numbers haven't changed much, often adds little value. Studies show that bone density changes slowly, sometimes less than 1% a year. It would take 5 years or more to see a meaningful difference, and more frequent scans are unlikely to change your care or prevent a fracture. What's more, every new scan brings a new number. If your results drop even slightly, you might feel worried, even though the change is minor and expected. Some people end up starting medication they don't need, or living with the constant fear that their bones are on the verge of breaking. So why do we do it? In part, it's habit. Medical routines are hard to break, and more information can feel reassuring. Doctors want to be proactive, and patients want to stay safe. But just like checking your credit score every month doesn't help your finances, frequent DEXA scans often don't make a difference for your health. Here's a gentle, practical solution. If you've already had a DEXA scan after age 65, and you're not at especially high risk, you probably don't need another for at least 3 to 5 years, sometimes longer. If you're on osteoporosis treatment, a repeat scan might make sense every few years to check your progress, but more frequent testing isn't likely to change your plan. And if your last scan was normal, you may never need another unless your health situation changes. Instead, focus on what truly keeps bones strong. Eating enough calcium and vitamin D, staying physically active, avoiding falls, and working with your doctor to manage other health issues that might affect your bones. Walking, gentle weightlifting, Tai Chi, and yoga can all make a big difference. If you do need medication, take it as directed, but remember, one scan or one pill isn't the whole story. Let's meet someone who found this out firsthand. Louise, a 74-year-old retired librarian from Oregon, always took her health seriously. After a wrist fracture in her late 60s, she started on a medication for osteoporosis and got a DEXA scan every year, just as her previous doctor had suggested. Each year, the results were about the same, but any tiny drop sent Louise into a panic, wondering if her bones were crumbling. She switched medications twice, always chasing a better number. One day, a new physician explained that her annual scans were unnecessary. Since Louise was already on effective treatment and her results were stable, she could safely stretch out her scans to every 5 years, or even longer. Louise felt a wave of relief. The pressure lifted, and she began to focus more on her daily walks and less on the numbers. Her confidence grew, and so did her joy in everyday life. Louise's experience is a reminder that sometimes, less is more. There's wisdom in trusting the steady pace of nature and your body's ability to adapt. You're not fragile, and you're certainly not defined by a single scan result. Aging bones may lose density, but they also gain character and strength through years of use, movement, and care. If you're feeling nervous about skipping a scan, remember that good health isn't about chasing perfect test results. It's about living fully, safely, and with confidence. Ask your doctor, do you need this scan again, or can we wait a few years? Most will agree that less frequent testing is perfectly safe for most seniors, especially when you're already taking care of your bones in other ways. Your independence, mobility, and peace of mind are the true markers of bone health, not a number on a page. So permit yourself to break free from the cycle of constant testing. Focus on what you can control: your diet, your activity, your home safety, and your happiness. You have the power to build a life that's strong from the inside out. Let your wisdom guide you. You've earned it after all these years. Listen to your body, trust your experience, and don't let medical routines take away the joy of living. A scan can be useful, but it's not the story of your life, just a snapshot along the way. In the end, your bones are your foundation. Take care of them with love and common sense, and they'll carry you far, without the constant need for reminders from a machine. You are more resilient than you think, and your journey is just as important as any number in a medical report. So walk tall, trust yourself, and know that true strength comes not from frequent testing, but from living each day with courage, balance, and hope. 5. Advanced heart tests, stress tests, echocardiograms, without clear symptoms. If you're over 65, you know the importance of looking after your heart. Maybe you check your blood pressure at home, take daily medications, or stick to a careful diet. At each doctor's appointment, you listen closely for any sign of trouble. A skipped beat, a new murmur, a number that seems too high or too low. So when your doctor, maybe out of habit, says, "Let's order a stress test just to be safe," it might feel like the wise thing to do. After all, isn't catching heart disease early the key to staying healthy? But here's the surprising truth. If you feel well, have no new symptoms, and haven't had a recent change in your heart health, those extra tests, stress tests, echocardiograms, nuclear scans, may not only be unnecessary, but can lead you down a path of anxiety, confusion, and even harm. It's a notion that turns the old advice on its head. Sometimes, more testing is not the answer. Sometimes, it's an unnecessary detour. Let's unpack why this happens. In the United States, the better safe than sorry approach is deeply ingrained. Advanced technology gives us the ability to peek inside the heart in ways that our parents and grandparents never imagined. Stress tests put your heart through its paces, looking for hidden blockages. Echocardiograms create live pictures of your heart's chambers and valves. For people who've had heart attacks or serious symptoms, these tests are true lifesavers. But for older adults without any symptoms, no chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, or swelling, routine advanced heart tests rarely catch silent disease. Instead, they often find normal age-related changes or small abnormalities that mean little but lead to a cascade of worry and more testing. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Here's the science in plain language. As we age, our hearts change. Tiny leaks in valves, a stiffening wall, or a harmless rhythm blip can show up on a scan. For most people, these changes don't cause problems, don't need treatment, and don't predict a heart attack. Yet, once something is spotted, the pressure to do something grows. Maybe a follow-up scan, an invasive procedure. Each new test carries its risks. Contrast dye can harm the kidneys, radiation adds up, and even routine stress tests can trigger anxiety or a rare complication. For older adults, especially those with other medical issues, these risks multiply. Why do so many seniors get advanced heart tests without clear reasons? Some of it comes from a place of care. Doctors and family members want you to be safe. Sometimes it's habit or the lure of technology. And sometimes it's the unspoken fear that something might be missed, and that missing it would be unforgivable. But evidence from years of research shows that, unless you have real symptoms or your doctor has a strong suspicion based on your history, these tests do not improve health, lengthen life, or prevent heart attacks. They can start a spiral of incidental findings, issues that sound scary but are, in truth, just part of growing older. So, what should you do if a doctor suggests an advanced heart test when you feel well? The best answer is often the simplest. Pause and have an open conversation. Ask, do I need this test right now? What are we hoping to find? What would we do with the results? Share your own experience, how you've been feeling, what activities you can do, what truly matters to you. If there's no change in your health and no new symptoms, you may decide together to hold off on testing, keep up with regular checkups, and focus on staying active and happy. Consider the story of George, a 79-year-old former school principal in Florida. George kept himself fit, daily walks, lots of laughter, and never missed his annual physical. Last spring, his doctor, seeing his age on the chart, suggested a nuclear stress test even though George felt perfectly fine. The scan found a small, possibly significant, abnormality. This led to another scan, then a visit to a cardiologist, who finally told George, "This is a normal change for someone your age. No treatment needed." But for months, George had worried, cut back on activities, and lost sleep, fearing his heart might give out. The relief of being told he was okay was real, but so was the frustration at the stress those tests brought into his life. George's story is not rare. Across America, older adults are drawn into a medical maze by tests meant to protect them. The journey often starts with the best intentions, but can end in unnecessary worry and lost quality of life. The most powerful thing you can do is become your advocate. If you feel well, celebrate that. Ask your doctor to explain the reason for every test, especially those that are more advanced or invasive. If you're unsure, it's always okay to ask for a second opinion or to wait and see. Remember, you are the expert on how you feel. Heart health is about so much more than tests. It's about moving your body, eating well, connecting with others, managing stress, and doing what brings you joy. Regular checkups, a healthy lifestyle, and clear communication with your doctor are far more important than a scan that might reveal nothing. Or worse, start a chain of unnecessary interventions. Trust your instincts and your lived experience. After all, you know your own body best. You've survived challenges, adapted to change, and gathered wisdom that no machine can measure. Let that wisdom guide you now. Instead of worrying about hidden threats, focus on the daily victories, climbing the stairs, sharing a meal, feeling your heart beat strong and steady. If something does change, if you feel pain, get breathless, or notice swelling, tell your doctor right away. But don't let the fear of "what if" steal your peace. In the end, the true measure of a healthy heart isn't just what a machine shows. It's the life you live and the love you share. You have earned the right to say yes to what matters and no to what does not. Stand tall, listen to your heart, literally and figuratively. Know that your well-being is worth protecting, not just with tests, but with wisdom, courage, and self-compassion. As we've explored today, not every health test recommended after 70 automatically benefits you. Sometimes, what feels like the safest choice, doing every possible screening, can lead to unnecessary stress, invasive procedures, and risks that outweigh the benefits. It's natural to want to be proactive about your health, but true wisdom comes from understanding that smart care means choosing the right tests, at the right time, for the right reasons. Remember, your body is unique, and your health journey deserves a personalized approach. Talk openly with your doctor about which screenings truly matter for you. Ask questions, share your concerns, and don't hesitate to seek a second opinion if something doesn't feel right. You have every right to make decisions that honor your comfort, your values, and your quality of life. Above all, never forget that health is about more than numbers and test results. It's about living fully, walking freely, laughing often, and spending meaningful moments with the people you love. It's about the confidence that comes from knowing you're making choices that support your well-being, not just following routines blindly. You've earned the right to be in charge of your health. Trust your instincts, lean on the support of your care team, and embrace the power of thoughtful decisions. By doing so, you're not only protecting your body, you're honoring the life you've built and the future you still want to enjoy. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to support each other on this journey of healthy, joyful aging. Remember, you're never alone, And the best care is the care that respects you. Take care, and here's to many vibrant, happy years ahead.